Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast. Very excited for today's episode. I have the other host of the Next Level University podcast. I had Alan on the show a little while ago. And what they do is they help busy CEOs and entrepreneurs with their podcast. Very excited to be rocking out with Kevin today. Hey, Kevin, are you ready to rock?
I am ready to rock, Tim. Let's rock.
Let's rock. Awesome. So we always start off at a good note here. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
Yeah. So Alan and I are very, very close right now to starting to actually scale our business and our podcast, which has been amazing. So a recent victory, a recent win. We had a day last week where we had over 1,500 downloads on our podcast. Our first year podcasting, Tim, we had less than that. So in our first year, I think we had like 1,508. One day last week, we had like, I don't know, 1,512 or something like that. So for anybody out there who's starting something new, you got to understand that it takes time, and eventually, what took you a year might take you a month. It might take you a week. It might take you a day, and it just really grows from there. So I think that's inspiring.
That's very inspiring, considering I would love to get to the 1,500 a day.
You will, my friend, you will.
That's amazing. Right on. So now along the path, sometimes we hit some bad notes here and there. So I'm wondering, could you maybe share one or two, I don't know, just things that didn't go as planned and how you recovered from that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a few years ago, Alan and I, so you guys know Alan because you heard of him. We co-hosted an event, and it was our goal to just really, really blow this thing out of the water. Our goal was to get 150 people, some great speakers, and just make it a really, really memorable day. And we ended up losing, I think, like $4,000 or $5,000 on the event, which was very, very painful for sure. But I think one of the unique strengths that we have is we always try to find a way to take the win out of the loss. So the relationships we built that day ended up becoming clients or friends or speakers in other arenas. And I think that's what matters at the end of the day. And then another thing, I put myself $30,000 into debt in order to get where we are today. I thought we were going to succeed way quicker than we did. And for a long time, and I'm still paying down that debt, but you're looking at like $800 a month for credit card payments. Not good when you're a broke entrepreneur. So I think that's the other thing too, is I didn't have the time perspective of how long this was actually going to take. In retrospect, I would have changed some things probably.
Hey, so, I mean, there's so much there that we can learn from, but I mean, the main one is, so it didn't go as quick as you thought. I mean, I'm sure that everybody's found themselves in that boat where, you sink some money into something and then it's not going as fast as possible. So why did you keep moving forward? How did you know forward was the better route than backwards?
For me, Tim, backwards was me sitting on the edge of a bed and debating suicide. So I had a very good job. I had what seemed like a very good life, and it just wasn't. I was very insecure. I was very depressed. I was very anxious. I felt trapped. I felt stuck. I felt hopeless. So I quit my job. I left a six-figure job to pursue this full time. So for me, I went all the way to hell no. I was willing to risk it all for hell yes. So there is no backwards for me. I very much look at it like a fight. When you're in a fight, you got to keep walking forward. And that's what we're playing for. We're walking forward every single day. So I think it's a good lesson though. I mean, if you're watching this or listening, I don't want you to get to the point where you're suicidal on the edge of a bed. The goal is to find your necessity before it finds you, I think. And I think that's a good lesson for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I've studied a lot of human psychology, and it appears that many people don't actually change until the pain is so great that they have to, right? Yeah. And I mean, it's really unfortunate that it has to get that far for a lot of people. But then a lot of people, it doesn't have to get that far because of probably exactly what you just said. They can sort of see what it looks like to get to that rock bottom point and go, no, I'm going this way instead. Right.
Yeah. And that's the goal. I mean, and if you think about it, like through history, and a good example, Titanic is on Netflix right now. Titanic was this thing that was supposed to be the best thing ever. We don't need lifeboats because it's not going to sink. Titanic sinks. That is a massive amount of pain for that industry, and they change things forever. Now there's never not going to be enough lifeboats. So oftentimes it is the rock bottom or the quote unquote tragedy that forces people to adopt a new mindset, particularly new standards. So hopefully it doesn't have to come to that if you're watching or listening. And I do believe that, Tim. Sometimes you can study other people's rock bottoms to figure out what your own might look like. And that can be very helpful.
Right. So now let's talk about, people who aren't going to get there to the rock bottom. They want to sort of, avoid that. And so how is it that you get good at what it is that you do? Like, what is it that you're going to do? I say practice makes progress instead of practice makes perfect. So what do you do to get there?
Yeah, for me, and Tim knows this because Tim listens to us, which I'm grateful for. But at this point, I've done 777 or 776 podcast episodes as of recording this. When I started, and this is an important distinction, I think, practice makes progress. I love that. When you start something, you're not going to be very good. And you have to have the vision, enough of it, or borrow it from somebody close to you. Have the vision to understand that where you are is only momentary, not forever. So it took me 150 podcast episodes to feel confident. We've done 82 weeks in a row of a live podcast. It took me like 30 or 40 to feel confident. In-person speeches, I think I've done like 6 or 7. I'm getting close, but I'm still not a 10 out of 10 confident. So every time it gets confident a little bit quicker. So I believe that you have to understand that it's the reps that really, really help you get better. If you think of the things that you're the best at, out of all the things that you do, it's probably the things that you have done the most. When you started your job, you probably weren't that good. You probably didn't know what you were doing. But after you've punched in and clocked in at your home office, if that's what you're doing, you've done that for a year, 2 years, 3 years, you probably know the ins and outs, and that practice has made progress. I think people quit too soon because they assume their results that they have right in that moment are what they're going to have forever. And and this is a good stat, Tim. Most podcasters last between 7 and 21 episodes. When I was 21 episodes in, I was not very good. So I didn't have any of the results I had today. So put your head down and understand that consistency is the name of the game, and consistency will bring you results. Just keep doing the reps and focus on 1% improvements. It's not going to happen overnight, and that's okay. You don't want it to happen overnight, honestly.
No, yeah, exactly. Well, there's a ton of analogies with music and that, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of practice to get good at playing an instrument, and a lot of pain for that matter, even on the fingers. But once you do, and once you get to that point, then you're right. Like the more times you do it, the more times you get up there, the more confident you are. And I remember someone mentioned something about stage fright, and I don't know if I view it as stage fright. I view it as like some sort of like nervous excitement. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that was kind of like what made you feel alive when you get up on stage. And so when people say, hey, does that ever go away? And I'm like, well, not really. I mean, I'm always got that little kind of like, all right, here we go, going on stage, even though I've done it so many times. But I figure that once that goes away, maybe it's boring. Maybe it's not even worth doing anymore. I find that is what kind of like makes you feel excited that, oh my God, I'm going to get better today than I was yesterday. Right.
Yeah. And I think part of it too is like, I think it depends on what your experience is. I know for me, I'm always nervous when I do a speech. I'm nervous before podcasts too. Like right now, I think I'm naturally nervous because I'm performing in some way, shape, or form. But the things that you do enough, you can actually hit flow. And when you hit flow, everything gets a little bit easier. When I'm speaking and I hit flow, I forget that I'm on stage. I forget that I'm afraid. And this is the other measure. When you're done with it, you're always happy you did it. You're always glad you did it. You're fulfilled. You have that post high, whatever it is you're doing. And that's just, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that.
Yeah. I want to double down on that one because I've been hosting open mics for a very, very long time. And what that is that, oftentimes I'll play a song and someone will come up and sing it. And I don't know how many times, I get there and there's a table. There's one person who wants to sing, but doesn't want to sing, really nervous about it. I'm like, oh, I don't know, it'll be my first time. And their friends are all like, no, but she's a really good singer. He's a really good singer. Gets up on stage, does that song. And half the time they don't do a very good job. They do an
Mm.
okay job, right? But they got through the song, right? And they're happy that they got through the song. And then they want to come up immediately afterwards and over and over again. And it is so addictive once you get up there. You might be scared, but once you do it, even if you don't do as well as you would hope that you would have, you still come back for more.
Yeah. And it's an interesting distinction too, because you might not know how good you actually are at something because you're basing it on like a past time when you thought about it. So my fiance, at one point, she told me, she said, hey, I have a date night plan for us. We're going to go to this place. It's called Skip the Small Talk. We're going to go to this place and we're going to just have deep conversations with strangers. And I was like, that honestly sounds like the worst idea ever. Like, I'm terrified. But that was old Kevin saying that, not public speaker, coach, podcaster Kevin. It was awesome. I loved it. I felt super comfortable, probably more comfortable than most people, but it's because I had the reps and I didn't realize I had the reps. So you don't always know.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm writing that down. What was it? Skip the small talk?
Skip the Small Talk is what it's called. I don't
Love
know if
it.
it's just local to us, but look it up. It's good.
Wow, that's something that would be cool to create in just about any city.
Right? There you go. There you go. New
That's
business
really,
idea.
yeah, it's really cool. So now, speaking of getting good at what you're doing, and once you're good at it, then eventually you're going to want to start to build some fans because you're going to want to build a business. So I'm wondering, like, what do you do? What's your strategy on getting people to look at what you're doing?
Yeah. So this is something we've really, really, really studied and we've really leaned into. I think the mistake that most people make is they go way too broad and they try to say, like, I want to help everybody. I want everybody to buy my products. I want everybody to come to my business. So for us, we reverse engineered who are the people that we want to attract and what will they click on. And then I'm always thinking through the frame of what does our target audience need to hear? What I'm going through is great. It's even better if I can attach that to what our target audience is going through. And then for me, I think it's consistency. I mean, it's the old sales thing of people have to know you, like you, and trust you. The only way somebody really knows you is when you consistently show up. They like you when you speak the language that they value, and they trust you when you consistently over deliver. And most people, I don't want to say most, I don't want it to be negative, but many people struggle with consistency. They don't know who they're talking to, right? Those are two huge problems right there. And they don't over deliver. Maybe they under deliver, and it's not easy to build a following or a listener base or a fan base or a community that way. So I would say get wildly specific with who you're talking to, understand them at a deep, deep, deep level, and consistently over deliver in whatever that means to you and your demographic.
So what's something that I could do today if I wanted to make moves towards doing that?
So what I would do is figure out, like, okay, say I'm serving single moms who, have a lot of money. I would find a Facebook group. I would literally go into a Facebook group and I would see what people are talking about. That's one way to do it. Have conversations with people from your past. That's another way to do it. But it's just market research. Facebook groups are such an interesting thing because there's so many opportunities in there, even if you're just a wallflower and you just go in there and look.
Absolutely love it. That's great. So now you've just surveyed them. How do you keep the hat full? How do you get them to give you their money?
Yes. So what I'm going to say might be out of the realm of normalcy, or it might not be what people normally talk about. I was on a call today, or I was actually exchanging audio messages with one of my friends and clients. And I said this, I said, you have to understand that your ability to charge a price is directly correlated with your level of expertise. And you have to understand, like, how well do you actually know this? So if you think of it this way, how well do you know it? How good are you at communicating it? How much value can you truly, truly bring? And is your price point correct for what you're charging for? So what I would say is, particularly if you are new, charge nothing at the beginning. Genuinely. I have several podcast clients who said, hey, I want to start making money. And they're not at hundreds of thousands of downloads. They have anywhere from 4,000 to 8,000 downloads. I said, awesome. I want you to build relationships with your community, AKA anytime somebody shares your post, I want you to send them a video. Every follower you get, I want you to send them a video. Every time somebody posts about it, I want you to have a conversation with them. Anybody who reacts to your story, I want you to have a conversation. Find 2 of those people, tell them, hey, I'm looking to do some coaching. I'm starting this coaching business. I'd love for you to be a beta tester. It's free. Coach them for free for a month. And at the end of the month, say, if you want to continue this, it's X amount. Because you build your confidence, you build the relationship. They know you, they like you, and they trust you. I started coaching for $50 a call after free. It was free, $50 a call, $100 a call. And now we have clients who are, thousands of dollars a month. But that's only because now we have the credibility. Now we have the expertise. We can communicate it and we have the results. And you kind of need the results you're trying to sell somebody on. They have to believe that you're capable of delivering it because you've lived it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that's really, really, really good advice.
Thank you.
Actually, the whole thing. Yeah. Get into some Facebook groups for your target market, go find out what they're talking about, create conversations with them. And then, once you're looking into transitioning into the coaching realm or whatever it is that you're doing, give it away if you can for free. And you know what, there's a lot of, I suppose if there's like a physical, like, let's say your business has a physical product, well, maybe you can't give that away.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any advice on that?
I think you can give a version of that away. So if you think of, and I never knew this when I was a kid, you go to the grocery store, and I don't know if they do this anymore, but you go to the grocery store and in front of one of the aisles, they have somebody who's got a bunch of chicken on skewers and they just say, hey, free sample. And it's like, in my mind, it's like, cool, this is free. Well, what you see next to it is a pile of boxes selling that product. So maybe it's not a physical full-size thing, but what is a smaller version of that? Maybe it's a PDF that adds value. So what I would say is, as long as it's something that adds value in alignment with your product, then that's a safe place to go. It doesn't have to be like an actual freebie.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Good call though, Tim, on that.
Brilliant. Well, I'm trying to make it as broad as possible to hit all different types of businesses. But yeah. So, I mean, if it's we do this actually still even to this day, we'll do, small pro bono type, pieces of design or whatever it is, or development, just to sort of create a relationship. And then, if that person needs anything else, who are they going to go to? Right. I mean, they have free stuff from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's also the important, I think it's an important understanding that if you have, and what you're doing pro bono, you have a low barrier to entry. The lower barrier to entry you have, the better chance you have to get somebody walking through the door. So it's almost like, even if and there's a fine line here, but even if you're not making money on it, it doesn't mean it's not bringing money through your door. So that helps too. So it's almost like, okay, you have a physical product, cool. What could you make that's a very, very low cost item that you don't really have to worry about making a ton of money on, that you could just send out and then people come in from there? Just find something with a low barrier to entry. I naturally go coaching. That's just the way I just go, because that's what I do. But yeah, it's definitely different with physical products.
Yeah. Well, but I love the way you're thinking though, because right now you're thinking right out of it. Okay, I've got a product. If the product is something that I can't just give it away, it's too much value either. I mean, it could be something like, even in my business, it's a website. I can't just give away a free that can take, dozens of hours to do if it's, if it's a large client, especially. Yeah. But maybe I can scale that way right down to like a quick sales page, which I have done. And that might be something that you can offer, right?
Can I share the idea I had for you when you and I talked?
Absolutely.
So Tim and I were talking and I said, Tim, this is what I would do. When you go on somebody's podcast as a guest, what you should do after, which would be a value add, is take 10 minutes, go through their website and say, hey, I'm a website designer, a website expert, a marketing expert, a branding expert. I went through it. This is just some points that I thought I would bring to you. No stress, no pressure. I just wanted to add value. Like, boom, 10 minutes, potential client. I think that's a big win.
And by the way, I've booked 2 interviews on some other podcasts that are coming up.
Strong work.
So that's pretty cool.
Yes. And that's another great way. Like if you're trying to build a brand, a podcast is great. Consistency and all that is obviously super important. But if you have a brand, if you have a service, if you have a product, try to get on other podcasts. There's a reason you see authors making the rounds, because podcasts have become the new late night talk show, really. So if you have something, figure out, and again, lean into your demographic, figure out who your demographic and psychographic are, and go on shows that those people listen to. Huge, huge, huge free marketing play.
Right. So benefit to being on my show is that I give you a guest solo where you can talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about.
Right.
And it's time for your guest solo, Kevin.
It's that time. So as Tim mentioned in the intro, at Next Level University, we produce 7 episodes a week, an episode every single day, self-improvement in your pocket for free. That is our goal. So if you like any of what I talked about today, we talk a lot about early entrepreneurship, mindset, relationships, health, wealth, life, and love is our jam. But also, obviously, I talked about podcasting. I have a business called Next Level Podcast Solutions, where we help busy CEOs and entrepreneurs grow, scale, and monetize their shows. So that is my favorite thing in the world. I've been on podcast calls all week, every single day, and I'm loving it. And that's my jam, and that's my baby, and that's what I love doing.
Love it. And as Kevin mentioned earlier, I actually do listen to the Next Level University podcast from time to time, and it's actually quite good.
Thank you.
I definitely recommend it. I like the way that they explore topics, and they're actually pretty funny too. I like a little chuckle in the middle of my podcast.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Don't tell Alan he's funny. That'll go right to his head.
Exactly. Well, right on. Thank you so much for being on my podcast today. This has been a lot of fun rocking out with you.
Of course, Tim. Thank you so much. I genuinely appreciate it very much.
And to the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. We'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar podcast.